Hello student, today let us learn a concept from human resource management, that is performance appraisal. This session will lead you to have a clear understanding about what performance appraisal is, what are its purposes, what are its objectives, and various methods used in appraising a performance. Performance appraisal basically means an evaluation or measurement of how an employee's work in the organization, and it is a concept started in early 20th century, and now in today's corporate scenario it has been widely used by almost all the organizations for various reasons. It can be for improving the employee's performance or deciding about the pay rise, increments, terminations, demotions, etc. So this concept is said as an important concept in any organization for increasing the productivity or for employees' job satisfaction in the organization and managing a human resource in the organization. Performance appraisal is said to be a key component for managing performance in the organization and also in obtaining a feedback from employees and subordinates. Now let us define what performance appraisal is. According to Davis et al. In 1981, who defined performance appraisal as a process which allows the organization to evaluate or consequently measure an employee's achievements and behavior in the organization for over a period of time. And Cordy and Dobbins in 1994 defined performance appraisal as an process of identifying, observing, measuring, and also developing a human resources in the organization. So by this definition we can say performance appraisal is actually a process of obtaining an information which is related to employees and analyzing that information and then recording the information for the purpose of evaluating and improving the employees' performances. Objectives of performance appraisals. The major objective of performance appraisals are to determine increments, rewards, and provide a reliable index for promotion and transfer, to maintain individual and group development, to suggest way of improving the employee's performance, to identify training and developmental needs of employees, and for career development and human resource planning in the organization. These are the major objectives of performance appraisal. When we come to the purpose of performance appraisal, the basic purpose of conducting performance appraisal are communicating, the second is decision making, and the final is motivation. Communicating, because performance appraisal actually helps the organization to evolve a formal communication between employees and managers, which can be used in obtaining a feedback and also helps in improving the performances of the employees. And the next is decision making, as performance appraisal helps the management in making decisions concerning the employee's performance. And the final is motivation, as performance appraisal also helps in motivating an employee's performance and improving the performance in the organizations. After knowing the objectives and purpose of performance appraisal, you may have a question in mind that what actually should be appraised. The three major components that actually should be appraised while appraising a performance is: number one are traits, second is behavior, and the third one is the results. When we come to traits, traits are nothing but a physical and psychological characteristics of individual which are actually required in any particular task or job. The second is behavior. Behavior are the actions or the things an individual say or do, and the results are nothing but the outcome of your work or job. So while appraising a performance of employees, these three important components should be taken into consideration, which will give you an apt appraisal about a performance of the employees in the organizations. How it should be appraised, how and performance appraisal should be done. So there are various methods of appraising a performance. Methods of performance appraisal can be basically and broadly characterized into two, that is traditional methods and modern approach. If you can look at the slide, under these two methods there are various methods such as under traditional method, the one is essay appraisal method, the second is trait ranking method, the third is critical incident methods, graphic rating scale, and force distribution. When we comes to modern approaches, there are again different methods such as assessment center method, management by objectives, behaviorally anchored rating scale, and 360 degrees appraisal. When we come to traditional methods, these methods are used traditionally. We can say it was used since the World War II for the purpose of army selection and appraising the performance of the army people. But this approach was only considered the individual abilities. Before, this method was only used for justifying the payments, and then later it was used for determining the rewards and punishments. And this approach was also known as past oriented method approach, because it was purely based on the past performances of the employees. Because this method was only used based on the past performances of the employees and does not consider the present or future. It was only considered for some of the reasons like justifying the rewards and determining the punishments. Under this methods, one of its traditional method is essay appraisal method. As the name says, here the supervisor writes an essay or a descriptive statements related to employee's performance, which may include the employee's strengths and weaknesses. Example, a supervisor will have a keen observation of performance of the employees, and then he writes an essay related to that performance, where he has to write about the facts of the employees, which includes the weaknesses and the strengths of the employees while performing a job or task. But the major drawback of this method, it is totally unstructured and informal, which is open-ended, and here also the supervisor can be biased while writing an essay about the employee. The next method is trait ranking method. This method was said as one of the oldest and simplest method. Here the evaluator rates the employee based on the overall performance of the employees while performing a job. The rating can be from the best to the poor. If you can see at the slide here as an example, the number of employees like employee A, B, C, D, E have been ranked on different numerical rankings, such as A have been ranked as 2, B as 1, C as 5, D as 4 and E as 3. This ranking will be purely based on the overall performance of the employee. But a drawback of this method is again here there can be a discrimination while ranking an employee. The next method is critical incident method. As the name clearly suggests that here the performance appraisal will be done based on the critical incident in the organization. Here the evaluator will rate an employee based on the critical events, in those events how the employee behave, which can be negative and positive behaviors. For example, if the organization faces some accident, in that accident how the employees work, whether he positively tried to solve that issue or just run out of that issue. This will be noted down in a file or a folder which is maintained by supervisor. But drawback of this method is again that supervisor has to maintain the file and had to note down each and every points of their behaviors. This method is majorly used and is more effective while appraising a performance, because it clearly shows how employees will be behave in particular situations. The next method is graphic rating scale. This method includes the rating scales which demonstrate individual behaviors, traits or the performances. This rating scale are be constructed in a very standardized manner so that it should give a good result. So here the evaluator use this rating scale to demonstrate the individual or employee's behaviors, traits and also the performances. In this rating scale, the statements will be given such as whether the employee is maintain neatness, thoroughness and accuracy of work knowledge of job. These kind of sentences or statements will be given. Based on that statements, the evaluator should rate him as a good, satisfactory, poor or average. These kind of rating scales are being widely used by the organization, and there are many forms of rating scales which based on the 5-point rating scale and 7-point rating scale. The disadvantages of this rating scales can be major if it is not used properly. It can suffer from rating errors such as halo effect. This error is where a rater or a evaluator will rate the employees one dimension, and that dimension will influence the other dimension. Example, if the rater or evaluator has rated an employee as an excellent in the dimension of neatness, then he have been rated him as unorganized, as poorest. This discrimination will lead to a halo effect. And the next is central tendency effect. Central tendency, in this rating error, here the employee will be rated as on the same dimensions or same variances, and this effect may lack a variations. Example, if the rater will be rated as average on dimensions like neatness, discipline, organized, etc., all these dimensions it will be rated as average. So, this is the rating error which is known as central tendency effect, and the other is the leniency. Here the evaluator or rater can just leniently rate the employee with no interest of rating. Example, he just mark or rate the employee just on fluke with no importance and no feeling of rating. And the last one can be severity effect. This rating error include that here the evaluator or rater may harshly or very strongly or controlled manner he rates the employee. Like he will be keen in rating the employee. Sometimes it can be true or sometimes it can be false. The other rating scale is force distribution, which actually eliminates the rating errors of graphical rating scales. In this method, the evaluator rate the employees or number of employees to a specific distribution or dimensions, such as the poor, below average, average, good, excellent. On this dimension, the number of employees will be rated. Example, 10% of the employees will be rated as poor, 20% will be below average and 40% as average, where 20% as good and 10% on excellent. The force distribution method, the name suggests that here the distribution is done forcefully on specific criteria or dimensions, and it can be sometimes as accurate as the other methods, because here we can't compare one employees with the other. In this group, some can be good and some can be more good in the other dimension. So, the drawback of this error, it can be biased or undiscriminative. And now we comes to the modern approaches of performance appraisal. Here this method is said to be more formal and structured, and other like traditional method, it completely consider a developmental aspects of human or employees, and this method actually involves a feedback and also provide a developmental process in individuals, which can be actually helps in developing in human resource management or career development planning and identifying human and individual needs in the organization. So, these methods are more accurate and consequently used in the corporate world today. So, under these methods, there are again various methods we saw. One we saw is assessment center method. This method is actually here the individual or employee will be tested or demonstrated based on different social situations. Example, there will be artificial environment created for him under experienced managers. Example, an individual or employee will be asked to role play his manager of leadership. This role play will be evaluated. Under that role play, how he behave and like how will be playing the role of that particular manager or subordinate, that will be evaluated, and his performance in that role play will be taken as an evaluation of a performance appraisal. Not only role play, there are various techniques in this methods used. One of is role play, the other is panel discussion, where there will be a panel discussion which includes the subordinates, employees, supervisor, manager. In that panel discussion, how an employee will participate and what ideas he will give, based on that a performance appraisal will be done. The next can be the presentation. He will be asked to do a presentation regarding any concept or the thing, and the evaluation will be done while he is presenting the concept, like how he behaved and like how accurately he done the work or job. And the next can be group discussion. It can be same as the panel interview. Here the group discussion, the participation will be done where the employees will be equally participated at the manager and will be discussed any topic that will be evaluated. So, the assessment center method are said to be more convenient, but the drawback of this is it is too time consuming. The next method under modern approach is management by objectives. This method was first given by Peter Drucker, where he suggests that this method includes the participation of subordinates and supervisor. They participate in particular event and identify a common goal of the organization. Then the employees will be given a chance to decide an objective or plans or the strategy or standard on which they should be appraised, and then appraisal will be done based on that strategy and standard set by the employees. After the employees' performance, the review and feedback will be given from the subordinates as well as supervisors. Management by objective is vastly used and said as accurate because it includes the objective participation of all the employees together for evaluation the performance, which can be actually good. Management by objective method actually passes through 3 steps, that is, one, here set individual objectives and plan, as I said. The next step will be give a feedback and evaluate performance. The feedback will be given by the subordinates, and the next will be reward according to performance. Then according to the performance, the evaluation done by employees also by the subordinates, then it comes to the reward. Reward will be given based on the performance. The next method is behaviorally anchored rating scale. This actually is known as bars. This rating scale include the true improvised version of traditional method, that is critical incident method and graphic rating scale, but this scale is purely based on the behavioral dimensions. Here there is no other dimensions like trait and performance will be taken into consideration. This method will be purely based on behaviors. Here only the dimension related to behavior or the statement will be given in the scale which are purely related to behavior of the employees, and based on the employee's suitable behavior, the subordinate or supervisor should evaluate the employee's behavior in particular thing. Behavioral rating scale should be more structured, standardized in nature, and also should be validated and reliable while using, because if it is not standardized, unreliable and unvalidated, it could result in the negative appraisal. But the proper usage of bars can be give you accurate performance appraisals. The other method for modern approach is 360 degrees appraisal. As the name suggests, here the appraisal will be done in a 360 degrees manner. 360 degrees manner means the employee will be appraised from all of the surrounding people. It can be the subordinates, supervisors, he himself, and also the employees or the colleagues from the organization. In this method, the performance of the employees will be appraised through the rating scales or used any standardized rating scale while appraising the performance, which will be given to subordinates, supervisors, his peers, customers, all the people who are actually related to him in the working place. So, here 360 degrees appraisal will be done where individual or employee he himself evaluate his weaknesses and objectives in the particular performances, and the peers also evaluate or rate the employee or his friend based on his performances while performing a task. So this is said as 360 degrees appraisal method. This is actually majorly used in almost all the MNCs because this method is said to be more objective and transparent in evaluation of performance. So this method is widely used and considered as one of the important method, and there is no much drawbacks in this method because it evaluates the individual performance from all over the people who are actually related to him in the particular job or performance. So, from this session, we can come to the conclusion that performance appraisal is not a simple concept. It is actually a major concept which is used by the organization for developmental reasons. Developmental reasons not only for the development of organizations but also employees' development in an organization. Here, this concept includes the betterment of employees as well as the organization because performance appraisal helps the employee to improve their performance and obtain a job satisfaction in an organization, and also helps the organization to reach their goals and increase the productivity. So, performance appraisal can't be neglected in any organization. For getting a good results, performance appraisal is needed. Performance appraisal, we discussed, is not only used as just for the evaluation, but it has purpose, objectives as we discussed. So, performance appraisal is not only done for the sake of evaluating or measuring the employee's performance, it is done for basic purposes and objectives, which is in turn very beneficial for employees as well as the organizations. And performance appraisal can't be done in a simple form. It can't be just done as we measure a line through a scales. It is not as simple as that. Performance appraisal is measured through various methods which have been formed in very standardized manner and is widely and universally used by many organizations. We can't just implement a new idea or method to evaluate performance. We should follow the methods which has been discussed. So, most of the important methods we discussed is the 360 degrees appraisal method, which is come from modern methods, which are said to be the important method and gives accurate results. The other can be the bars, which evaluate the employee's performance based on the behavior of the employee. And from the traditional methods, the critical incident method are said to be very important because here the evaluator rates the employees based on the behavior under a critical situation. In that situation, how an employees behave, that gives you a more accurate reason because here the performance of the employees will be evaluated under non-controlled situation, and here the employee can't just make out or keep a mask to use his behavior as he wanted to. He can't just fake his behavior. So, this is said to be the important and accurate reason for using the method as a method of performance appraisal. And we can also discuss a key concept used in this session, that is performance. What is performance? Performance is actually a degree to which an individual completes their task or job. And what is appraisal? Appraisal is nothing but the act of measuring or assessing the behavior of employee, behavior of not only employee, it can be behavior of employee, also the overall performances. So, it is related to something or someone which can be accessed. These are the major components we discuss, and this session also lead you to have a clear understanding about the major components what actually should be appraised. As we discussed, that is trait, behavior and results. These are the major components that should be appraised because these three components shows how an employee works in the overall performance of the job or task. So, here performance appraisal is not as simple as we see. It is done in very accurate and measurable manner in the organizations. So, you can get an accurate results from that thing, and which can be also used for the major reason as developmental of the organization as well as the employees.